I want to start the day with UCLA, which improved to 15-2 late Thursday with a 68-49 win over Utah. Now, in and of itself, that's not really notable. Utah hasn't been the same since left the program for a second time. But it is worth noting that UCLA is now 6-0 in the Pac-12 after being picked to win the Pac-12, making the Bruins the only power conference team that's living up to expectations after being picked in the preseason to win its league. We noted this earlier in the week. Baylor was picked to win the Big 12, but is just 1-3 in the Big 12. Indiana was picked to win the Big 10, but is just 1-4 in the Big 10. Creighton picked to win the Big East, just 3-3 in the Big East. Kentucky picked to win the SEC. 1-3 in the SEC. Fans want the coach fired. North Carolina was picked to win the ACC, just 3-3 in the ACC. A lot of disappointing teams out there, but not UCLA. The Bruins were picked to win the Pac-12 and are now 15-2 overall, 6-0 in the Pac-12, alone atop the league standings and on a 12-game winning streak, which is the third longest in the country and tops among power conference schools. Deadleg, I couldn't help but notice you got UCLA second in your weekly power rankings. Tell folks why you're so high on Mick Cronin's Bruins, besides the obvious reason Mick Cronin's the coach.
We always start with Cronin being the coach there. UCLA has also won 12 in a row. It's the third longest streak in the country. Hasn't lost since November 20th. So power rankings, I do tend to reward significant winning streaks, and UCLA hasn't lost. It's not going to get dropped. And as a function of some other teams losing since, it's just continued to rise and rise. So yeah, but it's not just my power rankings. If you really look across the board here, UCLA is number 3 in KenPom, 3 at Sagarin, 3 in BPI. It's 7 in the net right now. It's a little, it's between 6 and 10 overall in traditional, or at least results-based metrics. It's also 3rd at Torvik. So why the hell not? Let's start with the Bruins here real quick off the top, just to at least highlight them. They've got a nondescript game at home this Saturday. It's the Fox primetime game, 8:00, I think, against Colorado. It won't be news if they win. And we'll talk about the Bruins again next weekend because they actually play at Arizona next Saturday. So that arguably could be the game of the weekend there. But at least shine a light on the fact that the Bruins have been able to, I think Cronin has been able to elevate the program here to top 10 levels since making the surprise run to the Final Four when he did so, going from first 4 to Final Four. He got there in 1920. There was no tournament then. UCLA was pacing to being a tournament team, was really a bubble team overall. Then squeaks in, makes the Final Four. There was the UNC-like buzz before there was UNC buzz about they made the Final Four. Should they be a top 5 team? I remember selling that notion, but buying UCLA being, top 10 level-ish. They wound up finishing 11th at KenPom last season and making the Sweet 16. Lo and behold, losing. Back? I am back. All right, you got me back. I don't know what to tell you, man. I dropped out there. I don't know when you lost me, but I am back. Can you hear me, GP?
I can hear you now. I was just sitting here posing.
Okay, I'll continue what I was saying. I'll just scroll through this real quick. Yeah, Wi-Fi completely dropped there, but we are back. What do you want from me? Cronin has been able to take last year, good year. I actually don't think I don't think that UCLA failed to completely meet expectations. I actually thought the expectation should have been them to be a top 10 team. And now it's been a top 5 team. Only losses, both respectable. Illinois and Baylor. No, Illinois and Baylor aren't necessarily top 15 teams, but those are on neutral courts. And they were competitive games there. And now, yeah, UCLA to me is not just second in my power rankings, but if I had to even remove that and build out a tournament resume, like they're clearly a 2 seed at worst. And there's a strong case that they're a top 5 team in the country. They rate top 5 in defensive efficiency. And even like like Amari Bailey, you can go off on all that if you want, jokes all aside. Adeem Bona has been the freshman that has really come on strong as of late. And his play, I mean, he had 15 against Utah, 18 against Washington recently, a recent Pac-12 freshman of the week. He has been quality, on top of the fact that Jaquez is a top 10 player, top 15 player in the country. Tiger Campbell, I wouldn't take 5 point guards over him personally. Jalen Clark is a wonderful two-way player. So when I talked to Cronin about this, when I saw him at the CBS Sports Classic, when they had no issues with Kentucky, and I think I mentioned this on the pod, he just mentioned the fact that it's the fact that Jaquez, Campbell, and Clark, they're like practically best of friends off the floor. And then the locker room itself, he says, I have no issues. David Singleton's been there forever. So because they haven't had a lot of high profile games, they've been a little bit off the radar, But wake up, America. Best coach in UCLA history has this team rolling and potentially headed toward a 1 seed in a couple of months.
The problem when you drop is that I don't know if it's you or if it's me, because I'm still having internet problems. C Spire is going to be at my house today at 2:00 to try to resolve my issues.
I'm going to have to call Spectrum. So I got Spectrum now. We got issues here.
So when you dropped, I thought it might have been me. So I just sort of sitting here looking pretty and stuff. I just sort of sat here just like this. I was just sitting here like this for 30 seconds or whatever. I didn't know what to do. Listen, UCLA is obviously good. Does it bother you at all? Not bother you. That's not the right word. But they are 0-2 against top 25 KenPom teams. They lost to Illinois, Baylor. They have lost to the 2 best teams they've played. They don't currently have a win over a team ranked in my top 25 and 1, a team ranked in the AP poll, coaches poll, or the top 35 of the net.
Doesn't bother me only because the predictive data suggests that they're still good enough to validate being top 5 status. And they don't. Here's the other thing. They have played some good teams. They've won 4 road games at this point, and they don't turn the ball over. Top 5 in not turning it over, turnover rate in the country, and top 12 in forcing turnovers. So they're actually good at both ends. They play both ends of the floor well. Will they need to prove it a bit more? Yes. Should we absolutely expect on the Arizona swing next week they'll go 2-0? I don't know if we should expect that. They got to play at ASU and at Arizona. Arizona State's actually a pretty solid team this season as well. And then they've got to play at USC the week after there. So I think UCLA is going to take at least 1 loss here. But I do believe that this UCLA team is tracking closer to what a lot of people thought UCLA might have been last season, even though I will reiterate, and I might have dropped when I said this, so people might not have even said it, but I'll say it again. UCLA finished last season 11th at KenPom, coincidentally enough, or ironically enough, losing to UNC in the Sweet 16. So a top 5 team in the eyes of some last season. They fell short of that, but wound up being 11th, making a Sweet 16 run with a 4 seed. Overall, I thought they actually pretty much met expectations, but this group is more of what I think some people thought UCLA from a year ago would be.
And they're doing it, at least most of this winning streak, or a good portion of this winning streak, without Amari Bailey, the 5-star freshman. He's been sidelined with a foot injury since December 21st. So, he wasn't having some top 5 freshman of the year type of season when healthy, but he's a meaningful player. So when they get him back, should be stronger. Like you mentioned, Colorado this weekend, then the Arizona schools on the road next weekend. The Arizona game is the weekend game, I believe. And for what it's worth, KenPom currently projects UCLA to be favored in every remaining game, including at the McKell Center. You buying that?
No. Well, the betting line, it'll depend on results here.
Sure.
The betting line will not reflect that. I would imagine, I'm guessing that's a 1-point UCLA projected win right now. That's my guess. Yeah, it's 77-76. Betting line will have Arizona favored unless Arizona plays at Oregon Saturday, home to USC. Like if Arizona were to drop its next 2, which is unlikely, but if it were in that situation, if UCLA hasn't lost, I could see UCLA being favored. But I would think that the actual betting line when we get to it will have Zona favored.
I agree with you. KenPom, for whatever it's worth, currently projects UCLA to go 17-3 in the Pac-12 and win the league by 3 games. And if that were to happen, then stay in the court, Nell can stay.
That's right.
It's not Nell didn't lose that game in the Astrodome. It's not her fault. Stay in the court, Nell can stay. UCLA looks great. It'll. And I say they don't have wins over top 25 this and top 35 that. They don't have many opportunities. I mean, like like Arizona and UCLA are the 2 really good teams in the Pac-12. And then who else do you trust in that league besides those 2?
No one at the moment. There's no one that you can actually trust in that league. Doesn't mean Pac-12 only get 2 teams. Pac-12 will send more than 2 to the tournament.
Of course.
Terms of trustworthiness, it's just UCLA and Arizona. And I say that with Arizona having that super, super, super weird home loss to Washington State last weekend.
Yeah, nobody else in the Pac-12 is in the top 45 at KenPom. UCLA is 3 right now, like you mentioned. Arizona is 10. Nobody else in the top 45.